everyone. Summary. I said that like I do these all the time. I have not done one of these, I feel like, in at least a year. Has it been a year? Maybe it's been longer because I left YouTube and I left AuthorTube. However, I was putting these slides together because I like to make notes, and I am reading Got High Concept for like the umpteenth time. I've read this book like a million times, and you know, the time you're like, these are great ideas, and then afterwards I'm like, I can't remember what I read or why I read it or what I'm doing. So that's why I always have notes. Anyways, if you are new here, I am Lisa, and my real name's Lisa Seifert. I write under the romance pen name Lisa London, and I also write under my real name, Lisa Seifert, Cozy Mysteries. And for some reason, I had this epiphany that I was going to write mysteries under Lisa Latte, but I never did. It was just a fun name. I really like lattes. It went with Lisa. It's the alliteration thing, so never used it. But that is why there are so many names around here. And I am going to go ahead and share my slides. I'm going to check on YouTube and make sure this is actually working. Because I have been known to just talk and talk. There's some videos where I'm talking and then like 30 minutes in, someone will be like, there's no sound. So I don't know if anyone's here. But if you are here and you can hear me and you said, hey, hello, yes, anything that would be helpful. All right, I am going to see if I can see myself on my phone. All right. So I'm going to share my slides. Now, remember, if you would like today's slides and all of the slides that I've ever made, and the book summaries and every workbook, every writing course, every cheat sheet, everything I've ever made, it is all on sale for this week only. It's normally $197 to get access to that whole library. It's just called the Author Resource Library, and it's at my old website, lisalondonbooks.com. And if you use the code sale 47, it will automatically take $150 off the price, and you'll only pay $47. So that is today and tomorrow, and then the sale's gone. So let's go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share ESAR84. Hello. Hi there. Okay. Hopefully you can see my slides. And I'm going to hit play. So the thing about these slides, just so you know, they were literally, this book is super short. It's like the smallest book ever, and everything in here is super useful. However, everything in here was like a long laundry list. So I didn't put a long laundry list in there. You might want to refer back there in case it has some ideas. Some ideas were a little old, even though this was written in 2013. They just seemed a little outdated, but let's go ahead and go through these. Remember, if you want the slides, the link for the sale and the discount code are all in the description below. And my reading notes. So who's Lori Wilde? She's actually a romance author. She calls this a workbook, even though it's a book that's available on Kindle, or I believe you can order it. Or maybe you can't. I feel like 79 pages is extremely small for a paperback, but maybe it's in there. And I usually put down chapter breakdowns, but to be honest, there are no chapters. There's no really hierarchy or anything. It's just kind of like little sections. Some sections have like 3 sentences, and some have like huge lists of like 60 different ideas. So it was kind of all over the place. So I just put the highlights of what I found useful into here, and then hopefully that gives you an idea of if you want to go back and check it or not. But she is quite an accomplished writer. She lives in Texas, and she's written over 87 books. And she, I guess her day job, or maybe her previous day job, was as a registered nurse. So it's, like I said, it's meant as a workbook. She said it allowed her to sell 2 novels just on the pitch alone. However, I mean, I would caveat with that she's a New York Times bestselling author, and she has 87 books. So I'm pretty sure that helped as well when she was pitching her idea. And then she had 2 books one book that she recommended that you read by a screenwriter. And pretty much if you go on YouTube, everywhere, everyone's talking about high concept and what makes an idea like high concept, and how to get to that, and how to create your log lines, which are kind of your premise, your blurb to kind of pitch that story idea. All right, so our pseudo chapter breakdowns. First, she talks about what high concept can do for you in case you picked up the book and you're like, I don't know if I want to read any further because I'm not really sure if this is useful. So this was just talking about it has different components on what makes it's different, it's universal, it has instant emotional appeal. You can see the whole story, so it's very visual versus those, what was that? There was Atlantis or something like that. It's like one of those touchy-feely movies sometimes, and you're like, what is that about? I don't really understand. They're just going to be talking about feelings. There was that movie with Tom Cruise, Magnolia Flowers, I don't know, something like that. Same thing. It was very like just, I don't think esoteric's the right word, just not high concept. So, and it can also just be done in one sentence. And it's not comparing. So she's also saying it's not comparing one movie to another. It's not a blurb. It's not a TV guide style summary, which this is where I thought it was kind of old, which I'm that old. I don't know if you're young and you're watching this, you probably have no idea what a TV guide is. But back in the olden days, before the internet, you couldn't know what was on TV unless you had a paper guide. And so this paper catalog you'd flip through it. It sounds so archaic. And you'd flip through it and it would tell you what's going to be on that week on the different channels. So she's just saying it's not a TV guide style summary, because sometimes inside there they would put little like things to indicate what the TV show is about or what that episode is about. I think it has been literally like 30 years. I don't really remember. And it's not a book series. All right, so some high concept examples to just kind of get started right away. I just kind of picked, she had a couple in there, and then I picked a couple others, just threw these out there as something kind of, it's not a trope. It's just like when people say do the same as somebody else, but different. And that's what they're trying to say with high concept. So if you remember Speed, I feel like everyone knows these movies, right? Speed was the one where they're stuck in the bus and they can't slow down. Double Jeopardy, she gets to kill her husband a second time because she already served the time for it. And then The Princess Diaries, where she is really a secret princess of a fake country. The 6 key elements that go in there. So she's saying her method, like as long as she has these 6 key elements, then she considers it like you've done the high concept. So if you have compelling characters with a desperate desire, and you'll notice we'll go through these a little bit more, it's like 99.9% focus just on characters and nothing else. So compelling characters, flaw related to the character's career or situation. So just remember, I think the key thing here was everything has to connect, right? So like I read book reviews all the time, and people are always complaining, like they read like a little clue of something, like so-and-so has a terrible allergy to, you know, I don't even know, like roses, right? And so they make a big deal out of it. And so the reader or the viewer is waiting for something special to happen with the roses, right? Like maybe it's a key piece of evidence and he starts sneezing, and that's how we find the murderer, right? But when you do something where you give someone a flaw, but then you never really incorporate it into the story or circle back to it or have it be useful or a plot device, people like call that out. They're like, I don't know why this never got mentioned. This is such a waste. Like, why did, like, they're angry that they read that, right? It's kind of like when you are studying for a test or an exam and you memorize all of this, you know, possibly useless information, right? It's an accounting exam, it's a history exam, and then the test doesn't ask you about it. You don't have to write an essay on it, and you didn't need that information for any part of the test. And so you kind of feel cheated, right? You're like, I did all this studying and all this reading for nothing, right? So that's kind of how the viewer feels, or the reader as well. Like, I paid attention and I was thinking about this for no reason at all, right? So that's just the point of that, but that she reminds you kind of in an indirect way. Classic plot device, a universal theme. It can be a life-altering, inciting incident. It can be an innovative idea or a quirk of fate or sense of irony, right? So the life-altering, inciting incident for The Matrix is pretty obvious. So that's really what like helps to set it out, set it apart as well. All right, compelling character definition. Remember, I said she's very focused on characters. And in fact, I said when I started making these notes, it says section 1, compelling characters. We never really moved on from compelling characters. And I think that's okay. I think, you know, a lot of times on book reviews, I'll see where they'll say there wasn't enough character development, which is kind of scary. You're like, are you a writer or like a professional developmental editor? Because I thought you were just a reader, but they pick up on that as well. They like want to feel something, right? And so this is just giving you a list of things that help to make your character more well-rounded. And so again, I would look at this list not as like, I'm going to give my character each one of these traits, just as things that will help the plot or help with the character development in terms of a situation inside of the book. Like it always has to be related to the book. When I first started out writing, I used to use those awful, terrible workbooks on creating characters, right? And you'll download somebody's, like you're like so desperate for it. You're like, oh my God, it's a character worksheet. I must have this worksheet. And you download this worksheet and it's asking you like everything, like where did they go to high school? Did they get A's? Were they in suspension? Did they go to college? What was their roommate like? Like all this useless information. And I would literally waste like weeks working on these workbooks until I like figured it out. It doesn't matter. Like you should just make up, honestly, the character as you go, as you make up your plot. Because otherwise, you're wasting all of this time on things like, are they a middle child? Did they get made fun of as a kid? Did they volunteer in, at a soup kitchen when they were in high school? So that's what I would do. I would just think about this. I would actually really just do this after you do your plot, in my opinion. I know some people say you need a character-driven or a plot-driven story. I mean, I think you need both. You need the plot to drive the story, and then you need the characters to drive. Like, you really shouldn't do one versus the other. But maybe you have a preference on which one you want to start with. So she tells you to brainstorm a lot. So basically every time she tells you to do one of these elements, she'll say brainstorm 15 things and then go back through and evaluate each one to see if they meet these criteria. So for secrets and lies, she has all these different questions, which has the most story potential, which creates the most conflicts, what's the most interesting. And then this is really important. Which one excites you the most? Because I've been trying forever to write this Korean mystery because I wanted to make it own voices. But quite honestly, all the ideas that I've gotten from other people, I hate. I can't stand them. And so I even tried writing a couple chapters and I sent it to my friend Courtney, who's always wonderful and very helpful with reading all of the random stuff I send her. But she was like, it is so obvious that not only do you hate this story, your character hates being in this story as well. So, I would be careful. I've read stories like that. I was talking to my other friend about it's okay to have characters that hate their job or hate things. But honestly, I don't really like reading about that. Like, I don't want to sit at the water cooler and just complain about how much we all hate our jobs and how miserable we are. Because you can get that in the real world. At your own job, right? So I want to read about somebody who's excited about their life. Anyways, so do you have a personal connection to it? And sometimes if you have a personal connection, like even though I had a personal connection with the Korean stuff and the other ideas, I really wasn't excited about that particular idea. So, I feel like that's just one of many questions. What has the most commercial appeal? So this is one of those ones where I love talking about cars, like muscle cars, racing cars, sports cars, collector cars. And that's because my dad used to race cars and he also is a mechanic and we're always doing car things and watching car racing. And it doesn't have a lot of commercial appeal as a book. I think cars have a lot of commercial appeal as movies on the big screen, like the Fast and Furious is doing quite well. But I don't know that it has a lot as a book. And so for that reason, I have kind of shelved that idea, which will appeal to a larger audience, which is freshest, right? Like maybe you have an idea that's so been done over and over and over again that you just don't want to do it. And we're talking about the secrets, which is most unique, intriguing, or different. So I put a picture down here because I think this was the best example ever of secrets and lies. And so if you've never seen the first season of Jessica Jones, I am going to spoil it for you. So you might want to silence me if you don't want it to be ruined. But Jessica Jones is here with Luke Cage and she's helping him out and she's like his friend and then they end up sleeping together. Well, she has a big secret, which is she killed his wife and he's been searching forever to figure out who killed her, what happened to her. She is not evil. She was controlled by somebody, but that's like a really huge secret. And I think that was like a perfect setup, right? All right, so the next thing you want to do is give your character an inherently interesting job. So the easiest and most obvious is the Stephanie Plum character from the Janet Ivanovich books. The next one, which I really like, so down at the bottom is my friend Melissa Storm, and also one of my favorite authors. She writes cozy mysteries as Molly Fitz, and she has this new series, which is absolutely amazing, where this character gets to play a new magical being in every single book, right? So she has witch for hire, psychic for hire, shifter. So this cat, this magical cat, imbues powers onto her, and those powers allow her to do all of these different jobs because it's like a magical temp agency. Anyway, it's really good series. I don't want to spoil it for you, but this is same thing, make a list of 15, and it's really more about what fits the story, right? Like what's going to help the story, what is a special skill that your character can have that later will be useful or give her more insight or make her perfect for the job. So sometimes you see, I'm sorry, I can't think of an example right now, where they introduce a side character, or the character encounters a situation and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be perfect. I can't wait till this hero, the superhero or the heroine or whatever gets in there, because she's really the perfect person for that job or for this particular scenario. So anyways, like every time I watch a movie, I'm like, this movie would be so much better if Buffy was in it. Like she would just fix everything, right? Okay, wounded characters increase reader empathy. So if you haven't bought it, Angela Ackerman, and honestly, I don't even know what she writes in terms of fiction, but she has a ton of books. All the covers look exactly the same like this. And they're all thesauruses, like the Jobs thesaurus, the small town setting thesaurus, the urban fiction, the urban setting, large city thesaurus or whatever. And they're amazing. Like they're like very useful references. And I used to have physical copies, which I've since given away. Instead, now I just have everything on my Kindle. But if you're ever worried and you see those and you're like, are they worth it? Are they not? They're 100% worth it. I love those reference books. But it can be one of these things, or it can be a combo of these things, something emotional, something physical, spiritual, social, psychological. Again, she wants you to make a list of 15 and then ask yourself these questions, which really, again, you don't even have to look at the questions. You just have to ask yourself, is this related to the story? Is it going to help the plot later on? Is it going to show some character development? Is it going to be useful in a scene? Is it going to help them solve the crime or reach whatever their ultimate goal is? So that is feelings. Was it feelings? No, it was wounded characters for reader empathy. Misguided beliefs. So this one I actually always struggle with. It's kind of like giving them some like false, what do they call it? So like whenever you see those touchy-feely courses online, which I am actually not a fan of. I don't really do any of those touchy-feely courses, but when you see those touchy-feely courses, they pretty much all have one thing in common, which is, hey, can you get rid of your blocks, right? Whatever your money blocks are, or if it's a dating course, whatever your blocks are about love or relationships. And then it says to you, hey, now that you've gotten rid of those blocks, now, your life is going to be so much better. You're going to find true love. You're going to be a millionaire, and all of those different things. So that's what they're trying to say here. This is someone who needs your book to help clear their mindset, right? To help reset their mindset, to help fix themselves or whatever it is. And so disempowering, but used as a protection shield. So these are like truths that people have, where sometimes you're with a group of people and they say something like that and you just kind of roll your eyes at it or something like that. Or these are, I think this is really, to me, what happened or what used to happen back in the old days in the 1980s, before the internet, where you could listen to the advice of like billions of people. Before that, if you were in a tiny town like I lived in, and you were surrounded by all these Debbie Downers who are like, men suck, men always leave, you can't trust men, I don't know, like just say like all these people who are just had really bad experiences, then you're just going to grow up thinking that, maybe, instead of having a perspective of other people. So that's kind of what these disempowering beliefs are. So, and these are all the different areas you can apply it to. I honestly wouldn't do a lot of those. I would pick maybe one related to the internal GMC, goal, motivation, and conflict, that you want to fix for your characters. And that's really all you need. You don't need to have them have money issues and then have issues about their love life and then have issues about their appearance. Like, you just need one. Otherwise, your character just seems kind of like a mess. Or worse, people just say, I really didn't sympathize with the character. They seem kind of whiny. So again, I would only pick one, and it has to be related to your internal GMC. I don't know why emotional wound thesaurus is there again, but misguided beliefs. You need to ask yourself which is strongest. How has it helped or hampered them? If you remember that cute little cartoon Bolt from Disney, the cat had been deserted by her original owners. And so she was like, you can't trust people. They're awful. They're horrible, right? Whereas Bolt had this wonderful experience because it was fake, but he thought he was the greatest thing ever, and everybody loved him and everybody adored him. And so then you have these two very different beliefs from characters that are together. So I can't remember where, but she does say later on to try to juxtapose so that one character's beliefs or lies or whatever, fears or whatever, are totally opposite of another. All right, fears, doubts, and insecurities. Your story should force your character to overcome these. So I think the best example was Trainwreck, right? So if you remember, you don't even have to see the whole movie, just the very beginning, she's with her dad and she's like a little girl and he says, repeat after me, monogamy is not realistic, right? Because he had gotten caught cheating and that's why they're getting divorced. So that was kind of like his rationale and like what he hammered into the main character, which obviously, like I said, is from the 80s. So, or was she from the 80s? Whatever it was, she didn't have any other perspectives to listen to or think about. And so she grew up just thinking that. And then that kind of is something that she has to overcome because it is a romance. And then over here, we have Gardens of the Galaxy, where he didn't want to hold his mom's hand. And so there's that end scene where he finally overcomes that and he's able to hold everyone's hand to help defeat the stone. So you got to make it, like I said, everything has to be related. Just give your character one thing and make it like tie in to your actual story. Otherwise, who cares about it? Just forget about it. Lifestyle and backgrounds. So again, this is that area where even if your character doesn't have like a special interesting job, maybe they have a special skill from the past, right? So I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't like always quote Taken, like the first line in Taken where his daughter's kidnapped and he's like, I hope you know that I am a particular special person with a special set of skills. And like, he just like puts it out there. He's like, my whole background and lifestyle have been leading up to this point for someone to steal my daughter. And now you are all going to pay. So that's basically what they mean with the theme. Or take people to a new place like Gossip Girl, right? So it's this like little select area of society where all these teenagers are super uber wealthy and just running around backstabbing each other, right? So these are the things that are supposed to help make your story a little more high concept and a little more unique for people. Just because people like learning about new things, but just like what was that other movie? Orange is the New Black was really popular because people wanted to kind of see what it was like inside. It can be magical too. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? It was all about the Inhumans, and then, which is odd because there was a spin-off show, The Inhumans, that didn't do very well. So, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did very well. This Vampire Diaries ended up spinning off into 3 shows. Unusual skills. So we kind of already went this. These were also just some other examples, right? Remember White Collar, the whole premise of that was that he is a retired con artist and that's how he helps solve crimes. Anytime you watch a heist movie like Ocean's 11 or The Italian Job, or anything where they're like robbing banks or they have to get together to do like the Fast and Furious, right? You pick all these, it's a really great example of how they just pick all these different characters with a super specific skill set, right? So there is, at the beginning of The Italian Job, he's talking about his crew, and then he's like, he tells their background, right? And like how they got good at, the black guy was really great at blowing up things. He was like the bomb expert, and they show him as a little kid, and that's how he lost hearing in one of his ears, right? And so the other guy was really good at hacking, and he like he said he was the one who invented Napster. Obviously, it's an older movie. So this is kind of giving everybody a special talent or skill, and that, I think, heist movies are a great example of how a screenwriter or the author did that. Other traits. So again, I wouldn't pick all of them. I would just maybe pick one or two. Sexiness, funny, someone who's brave, someone who has values. And then you kind of pull it all together in what she calls the final character exercise. So what happens then in the book, or the workbook, I should say, is she goes through all those things that we just mentioned, and she gives some examples of all of those and tells you to pick one. Again, I don't know that you need all of them. I think maybe just one or two of those, because it's just going to be too much to, I think, incorporate into a story. And then there's a point at which you're telling things like that other complaint that a lot of readers get, where someone's saying something about a particular trait, or they're talking on and on about someone's allergies, but they never get used later on. So those are all the things. The one thing she did say is the number one quality readers like to see is courage. So your character can never not have courage. And I think this goes back to when agents say, when they read a manuscript and they say, this character has no agency, it means the character's not courageous, right? Like things just happen to them. They're not taking action and doing things, which really means they don't have the courage to move forward with their life. All right, we are almost done. So how great is that? So then she has a little section here on how to make a good concept great. So this is kind of like I've done the high concept, and how do I revise it, basically, is what she's saying. You can heighten the emotion. You can explore more universal or specific human conditions. You can show the world as a larger, more magical or more complex place than previously believed, kind of like with Gossip Girl. Classic themes, she said, go to the Bible, go to Shakespeare, go to mythology, and don't write what you know. Don't write act, don't write what you know, write what excites you. That's a typo. And then ramp it up with more characters, more setting, more conflict. And then Lori's examples for inspiration were The 40-Year-Old Virgin, The Da Vinci Code, and Monsters Ball, which I've actually never seen Monsters Ball. It looked depressing, so I didn't watch it. And Da Vinci Code, that was a DNF for me. It was a good concept. I don't know why. I know everybody loved that movie. I just couldn't get into it. But I did love The 40-Year-Old Virgin. And then she gave this one too as an example of a book, The Day of the Demon Hunting Soccer Mom. All right, so 4 traps that she said to avoid. Lack of experience. So I don't know how you can avoid lack of experience if you're just starting out. So I guess she's saying you can make up for that with doing a little more research. However, I would caution that. I would say just start doing stuff and making mistakes, because honestly, I've been writing for years, and like things that haven't been published or things that I've published and unpublished, and there are honestly a lot of them are just awful. And I don't think, though, I would have learned more by just doing more and more research. I think you just need to write. Undeveloped creative muscle, cliches, brainstorm new solutions that conquer the same problem. So her example was, if you want to write a mystery about medical survivors, instead turn that around and write about airplane crash survivors or alien abduction survivors, right? So basically, she's just saying, whatever your original idea is, try to put a new spin on it to make it even more high concept or more unique. Attachment. So she was saying, which I think happens a lot with writers, where you have an emotional attachment. This happens to me with the Car Thief book that I really want to write. I have an emotional attachment and I don't want to change it. even though it means failure. So, I mean, that's why I set that idea aside. But sometimes you have to just say, you know what, this doesn't. And I think this is the part of the reason why there's that argument of writing to market versus writing what you love. And really, she's not saying it has to be one or the other. You should kind of write something that does a good mix of the two, but don't just hold on too dearly to some great idea that you love if it's just not going to work or match with all these other criteria you need to follow. And artistitis, which is basically I interpreted this as don't write literary fiction, which I find honestly incredibly boring. I know some people love talking about it and love reading it. I know every book club with my college friends that I've tried to join, they've always wanted to talk about literary fiction. And so I haven't done that. But it's just kind of saying, don't try to be flowery just to be flowery. Make sure it actually has some commercial appeal. All right, hints on how to prep your mind. So how to get in the right state of mind or mindset for writing high concept is to read lots of high concept books. I feel like we've all heard that before, just read a lot of books. Put two genres together, right? So she had some really good examples here. Regency vampires, right? I think everyone's watching Bridgerton right now. And there was that really good book where, I can't remember, it was like a Regency book where they're all zombies. Attack of the Zombies, Western chick lit, erotic medicals, political psychics. So putting two things together, I think a really good example of that is Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, which, you know, wasn't the best movie, but it was still like, I loved it because it was such a great idea to put those two things together. Transpose, it updates settings. So Star Wars is just a Western in space. That's what she's saying. So maybe if you really want to write something about Regency, maybe you put it in space, or maybe you put it on an alien planet, or maybe you put it in a secret society or something like that. Push your ideal all the way. So I actually suffer from this a lot. So I always stop halfway, or it doesn't really, I feel like I need to be more conservative. I don't know what the right flaw is, but I never, like, I have an idea for something, and let's say it's the car thieves, right? And then I see somebody else like totally blow it up, and there's a whole like universe of car thieves, and there's like a whole system, and there's a car thief king, right? Like that's somebody else who like took it all the way, whereas I only took it halfway. So she's saying just keep going with your idea. And then, right, like we talked about Love and Passion, Sharknado, I thought that was a really good idea. It looks like they're on Sharknado 6. So clearly the high concept is a winning thing. So suck the reader in, be hip, use slang, think like an ad exec. So she's talking about writing your actual pitch, give emotional punch. And I feel like we all kind of, I don't know, learn this through reading log lines from screenwriters. So don't recap the novel, right? There's nothing worse when you ask somebody like, what's your book about? And then they like start telling you the origin story, and like, I don't know, you can just tell this conversation is going to drag on forever instead of like being really quick and having one sentence. So if you're looking for go-to resources, so these are my suggestions on where to go. So whenever I'm looking for like inspiration on how to write a pitch or a log line that's really clear and concise, I go to IMDb. That's like super easy. If I'm worried about like I have a trope and I want to see what other people have done, and I don't want to copy, I'll go to tvtropes.org. I have no idea what that site is. It basically just lists everything out. It's like a Wikipedia of tropes. I bought this book, The Writer's Idea Thesaurus. It has a ton of ideas. They're actually all pretty terrible. I'm gonna say, like, they're just kind of like where you roll your eyes, you're like, this is awful. However, if you are struggling to come up with ideas, this could still be a good resource for you. And remember, if you would like today's slides, because that's kind of it for today. And if you'd like today's slides, as well as like everything else I've ever made, because I really just stopped teaching. I used to do like so much on AuthorTube, and I used to teach classes all the time, both through different facilities and for writing organizations. And I just don't have time anymore. I think it's a better use of my time to write than actually teach authors. So I put everything into a vault just called the Author Resource Library. So that's $197. It is on sale, again, like I said, for this week only for $47 with the code SALE47. Just go to my old website, lisalondonbooks.com, and you can get everything. So there's 17 different planners in there. I don't know if you guys knew this. I used to come out with a different planner for every month, but there's habit trackers in there. There's word count. There's a new book recommendation every month, TBR lists, self-care guides, declutter challenges. Like, I put a lot of effort into all of those monthly checklists. Those were like epic, like 17 or 25 page planners. There's 16 craft related checklists, guides, and workbooks. So usually whenever I did a video on like, you know, how to come up with supernatural characters, I would create a checklist for you. And then I'd put some other ideas in there. 4-author Girl Boss business plan guide. So I created this whole workshop on how to create your business plan. And I know there's a lot of other people putting things out there, but this is a pretty extensive plan. It has over 100 pages in it, and how to plan out your like business. And then DIY tech tutorials. So how to use Audible, how to use Ulysses, Instagram stories, email marketing. And then there are 8 writing and marketing courses. So I put together all these different courses, either for savvy authors, or I had done them for, again, like a Romance Writers of America. I did a lot of courses for them. And some I just made up just for new romance writers, right? So those are all inside of there, all of the lessons, all of the checklists, all the workbooks that go with that. And then what else did I make? I also made 7 slide decks. So just like this, you get 7 slide decks of other books. Some of them are romance books, some of them are craft books. And then I just kind of threw these in there. I wrote 8 books on fitness and 8 books on book marketing. So you get all of that all together inside the author resource library. I mean, I'm leaving a lot of things out of there. I did put together, because after I read, what book is it? This Writer's Idea Thesaurus, I was like, this is so awful. Someone could do such a better job. So I had written, I think it's like 100 different story ideas for different romance subgenres, for urban fantasy, for paranormal, for young adults, for contemporary. So I'd put them all together, like 10 different ideas for each of those different subgenres into an idea book. And that's also inside the author resource library. So lots of cool things in there. I hope that you found today useful. And again, this was just kind of a one-off. Let's see. And that's kind of it. Oh, who's here? Jana. I just bought the author resource library. Awesome. It's great. Thanks, Jana. I always forget to put it on the screen. All right, guys. Well, I actually am going to go back to writing. I am not going to be doing any more AuthorTube videos. I just happened to do this one today because we were reading this for Angela James's group. It's always hard to say possessive like words when someone's name ends with an S, but Angela James, I don't know if you know, she was from Carina Press, Harlequin. She's amazing. She has this really great group called From Written to Recommended. I believe it's closed right now, but when it opens again, I think she'll probably open it again in the spring. I would definitely join. I find it very useful. She's very like generous and giving with all of her knowledge and her time. And so, yeah, so it's been really great. And it's mostly romance writers. I will say that. I think it's like me, and I think I saw one other mystery writer inside of there. So if you write romance, that could be a really good spot for you. All right, I think I got all the questions. Let me try Crowdcast. Mary Cooper, hello, great topic. Thanks. Awesome. All right, guys, I will see you guys later. And remember, I have 2 announcements for you. If you have a mystery book, make sure to join the Paranormal Women's Fiction for mystery writers specifically. That's like a new subgenre that's kind of popped up. A bunch of indie authors got together and just made it happen. And so some of them are urban fantasy, some of them are romance. So we're just a group of mystery writers who want to write in that kind of subgenre, but mostly just focused on mystery. So just look for Paranormal Women's Fiction for writers. I definitely emailed everyone that link. And also, if you have a mystery book, Courtney and I have the Cozy Escape Book Club. And so usually in the past, every year, Courtney and I pick what book we are going to read. Like I'll pick a book, she'll pick a book, and then we'll let the members vote. Well, this year we're doing it differently. Everybody can volunteer a book. Volunteer a book? No, recommend a book. What's the word? Nominate a book. So everyone can nominate one book. There's a Google form. And then if your book happens, and you as an author can nominate your own book, and your book happens to get chosen, then we will read your book as the book club. So you have 11 more months this year to possibly get chosen. So make sure to join the book club. Or if you just like talking about cozy mysteries, join the book club there as well. So, oh, thank you. You're welcome. All right. I think that is it. So that is finally my last announcement. All right, don't forget, the author resource library is only on sale through midnight tomorrow on Sunday, and then that's it. It hasn't been on sale ever. So this is the first time I've ever run a sale. All right, I hope everyone's having a fabulous weekend, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.